So we've been talking about some of the big names coming in and out of Trump Tower today. Another one to add to the list we haven't talked about yet, Rex Tillerson, the ExxonMobil chairman and CEO. He met with the president-elect and we're told remains, at least in the mix, to be the possible Secretary of State pick. Let's bring in Hadley Heath Manning, Independent Women's Voice senior policy analyst, and also Richard Goodstein, Democratic strategist. The idea, Hadley, of bringing in a big business person to head up the State Department. As a guy who has experience around the world, we get it, and a lot has been made about his relationships with, for example, Vladimir Putin through business. What is your take on this being considered?
Well, it wouldn't be a surprise for a businessman like Donald Trump himself, who had no prior public office experience, to hire yet another businessman into one of his top positions in the cabinet. But you're right, this is our nation's top diplomat, someone who will represent the U.S. foreign policy to the rest of the world. So this is just one more consideration. Of course, President-elect Trump hasn't announced anything yet, and he continues to consider various people.
Right. It's a list that, Richard, seems to keep growing. But, you know, last week we had no idea Rex Tillerson was even on it. Apparently now he's being given serious consideration. You have any issue with it?
Look, no. Rex Tillerson's a formidable CEO of a company that has as much global reach as any in the U.S. You know, to be a good Secretary of State, you need to know diplomacy. You need to know the world. You can't be seen as having a personal financial stake, and I have to imagine he would divest his investments. I think Donald Trump himself is going to have problems in that regard, and I don't think we want to have that. But no, I actually think that having somebody who's a CEO would be fine. With this exception, CEOs are used to snapping their fingers and making things happen, getting things done. The State Department, any federal agency, doesn't quite work like that, and it may take a little getting used to.
Well, you'd need somebody maybe as an Undersecretary of State, for example, who knows that.
True.
I mean, there's been speculation that Hadley might be somebody like a John Bolton, although I don't know that, Mr. Bolton would want to be an Undersecretary of State. I mean, you probably want the top spot, I'm sure, right?
Well, that's true of every position in politics. Everybody wants to advance as far as he or she can. But if you look at the other selections that President-elect Trump has made in various different departments, I think he deserves some credit, especially for some of the formidable selections he's made with Nikki Haley, Betsy DeVos, and Elaine Chao, some incredible women and men that he's selected to head some of these departments and agencies. So we'll look forward to seeing what his pick for Secretary of State is. It's one of the more difficult departments because, again, it is a face that Americans will come to know and respect as it is someone who will speak for our Department of State.
Oh, it's the big one. Another big one, though, is the Defense Secretary, Richard, and we're going to see his pick tonight. I mean, a lot of talk today about the issues we've already been talking about, whether it be Boeing or the SoftBank story that came late in the afternoon. But General James Mattis, will be appearing with Trump in North Carolina, and I guess he'll speak to the crowd, but this is somebody who seems to be very popular in Republican circles, certainly, since the pick was made public. What do you make of it?
I think General Mattis will be well received by Democrats and Republicans alike. There's this whole issue about having to kind of clear the path for him because of that rule about how long he's been out of the military. But look, the people in the Marines revere him, and that word gets out. Right. I think the fact is, if the Trump administration were filled with people who were well respected in their field, as General Mattis is in his.
So even some Democrats have had issue with the waiver. You're saying you don't have one, is the bottom line, Richard.
I think it's silly. I mean, you saw Leon Panetta, a former Secretary of Defense, say, come on, let it go. I haven't been Secretary of Defense, but it seems to me that's kind of exalting form over substance. What's our real beef? No, let him in the job and let him at it.
All right. I know you guys will be back in a few minutes. Appreciate it, though, so far.